This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com. Let's talk about the road to WrestleMania. It began at the Royal Rumble, which we recently covered. Diesel cost The Undertaker his title match against Bret Hart. Shawn Michaels wins the Royal Rumble, nearly strips naked. Goldust wins the Intercontinental title from Razor Ramon. Vader makes his WWF debut. Vader and Gorilla had their classic angle the next night on Monday Night Raw, where Vader would attack Gorilla, put him on the shelf. And this is really all done because Vader came over hurting and he needed surgery. So we had to have a reason to suspend him. In hindsight, how well do you think that Vader Gorilla angle was done?
I thought it was done very well. It was a big deal. It was the equivalent of attacking Jack Tunney. However, the audience genuinely loved Gorilla Monsoon.
Yes, they did.
So I think that was a huge deal in a huge way to debut Vader.
Let's sort of fill the gaps between the Rumble and Mania here. Roddy Piper is going to be announced as replacing Gorilla Monsoon as the president. And I like the idea of having him in this role. He's a beloved figure, much like Gorilla. When you first bring him in, do you bring him in with the understanding that, hey, Scott Hall's not happy with the Goldust thing and we need to call an audible? Or were those two unrelated and it just happened that way where it's like, okay, what else could we do? Hey, Roddy's back now doing this other thing. Let's just tie it together.
It was a combination of the two, and it was more of a, hey, Roddy, you want to come back? You want to be back in the fold? And it also was one of those where, yeah, we needed somebody to fill that Razor spot. And if you're going to do it, you've got to do it with a bigger name and a better name. Roddy Piper fit that role. It was a combination of, okay, well, we've got him for that. We could use him for this interim president deal, but to get Roddy back in the mix without having to do everything central on the Goldust story. That makes any sense at all.
Let's talk about, Roddy and how easy it was to get him to get back into the ring with some physicality.
I just was laughing at how easy it was. Nothing with Roddy was easy.
Well, that was my question. Cause it does feel like, hey, we pitch him one deal and then once he's back in the fold, then we try to pitch a little more, much like maybe you're pitched as being a consultant working from home, part-time, few hours a week. And then you're pacing concrete floors 4 days a week in hell before you know it. Does any of that ring a bell?
I mean, I could relate to that analogy, I guess. You know,
I just remember a few years ago, oh yeah, it's going to be like 4 hours a week from home. It's great. It's no big deal. Fast forward 2 months. Hey man, do you know how hard concrete floors are in dress shoes for 17 hours a day? I forgot. So chat me up, talking Roddy out of this figurehead role. And now we're going to do some physicality. I'm sure he was game to do stuff with Dustin. I'm sure that's something he could have fun with. He always liked to be a guy to push the envelope, but just, hey, we signed up for one thing. Now we want you to do another. What was that like?
You know, it wasn't necessarily that way. It was like, hey, Roddy, we'd like to have you come back. We'd like to use you in some different things. And then it grew from there. I know that Roddy, first of all, Roddy thought everything was a swerve and that everything was out to get him in a lot of respects. But he also knew that, I didn't blow smoke up his ass and I didn't try to, hey, Roddy, we're going to have you do this. I told him pretty much up front that this is the deal. We're probably going to do more. And he knew it was coming. He knew there was going to be more. He knows that, not to use him would have been a bad thing in more things.
Would you, would this have been something where you're involved with the money conversation at all when you're having that conversation? Or do you always defer to Vince or someone else in that era?
In that era, it was, there were no guaranteed contracts. There was no guarantee like that. So we were just really testing the waters at that point. And for Roddy was old school and understood that hey, he's going to get a WrestleMania payoff in here, and that he would be paid accordingly for what he contributed.
Let's briefly circle back to Roddy. I know we talked about it before, but what was this just a handshake deal with Roddy? Did you think, hey, we're going to have you in for X number of months? Because I know that Scott Hall's leaving for WCW, but it's not going to be too long. So's Roddy Piper. And it's kind of a short list to be a guy who was on WrestleMania and Starrcade the same year. I mean, cause later this year, he's going to main event WCW's biggest show of the year against Hulk Hogan. Did you think he was going to be with you for the long haul here, or did you just try it and it maybe wasn't the fire that it once was, and let's just try some new things and move on?
You know, Roddy's Roddy, and I'll throw Hulk in there too. Hulk is Hulk. That they're going to do what they're going to do. And while Roddy was one that would I have liked to have had him? Yeah, definitely. But Roddy wasn't what you know what I mean? He wasn't what he was at that time.
Yeah.
And huge star, great guy. It's just, I don't think that
it was legacy at that point.
Yeah. And I don't think that Roddy was going to fit into basically what we were doing at the time, long term.
It's also, you know, it is something you got to at least reconcile in your head, where we've got these Billionaire Ted skits where we're saying Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage are fucking dinosaurs. Who would ever want to watch that? Oh, by the way, don't miss Roddy Piper on pay-per-view this weekend. Right?
Yeah. Roddy Piper was younger than both of them.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Is this really what we're doing right now?
Don't you look it up.
I'm looking it up right now.
He was or not.
He was born in 54.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan was definitely born before that. He was born in 53. So you got it.
Yeah. See, so we had the younger,
much younger. And, Savage, you want to guess what year he was?
It was 52.
52. You nailed it.
Yeah.
So, Savage, Hogan, then Piper. So yeah, Piper was younger than both of them. So yeah. Speaking
the
of
new generation fucker.
Talk a little bit about the Observer. They write, the Huckster Nacho Man Billionaire Ted skit match will be on the pregame show, which pretty much removes the legal threats from that skit by using the likeness of Hulk Hogan, Ted Turner, and Randy Savage, all owned or controlled by WCW as part of an endeavor in which the public pays for it, which the pay-per-view falls into. But a free show doesn't. They would open themselves up for potential legal action down the road. So the idea is there was a match originally promoted that's going to have Nacho Man and Huckster and Billionaire Ted in a match on the pay-per-view. Now it's the pre-show. Did the possibility of litigation, since you guys were already thinking that way, cross your mind?
No, really and truly, the whole thought process behind it was, goddamn, let's just get over with this and move on. And no one was going to buy the pay-per-view for that.
No, correct.
And it was more along the lines of just let's get it over with, put it on the pre-show, be done with it, and just be done.
So by this point, you guys were just frustrated with the whole thing, but knew you had to have a payoff. So let's just get it over with. Okay. Is that one of those deals in hindsight where it seemed like a good idea on paper, but then it was just a fart in church? Like nobody cares.
Well,
what are we doing?
It's funny maybe one or two times, but then it just became, okay.
Yeah. We're over it. Yeah. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.